Hey everybody, it's X, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing this week's Midweek Magic Event, which is Momir. For those who've never played it before, it's a really fun, really chaotic format that is all about randomness. Everyone's bringing a deck of 60 basic lands, and all you have access to is the Emblem, the Factory of Momir Vig. It's going to let you spend X mana and discard a card to create a random creature with mana value X. You can only do that at sorcery speed and only once each turn. So it's you and your opponent going back and forth, seeing who spits out the better creatures at random. So it's super chaotic. Every game is different. It's a lot about the randomness and who can flip the best creatures out of nowhere. But it's also a little bit about your combat math, knowing when to hold back, when to send in, when to find good double blocks, and trying to see what random abilities on the board stack together well in specific scenarios. But again, more than anything, it's some random chaos. It's a pretty fun time and a pretty wild format. So without further ado, let's just hop into the games and see what on earth is going to pop out of the Factory of Momir Vig. Alright, here we are on the draw for game one, and we're going to get things rolling by not doing anything. There are quite a few one-drops that are just going to be irrelevant pretty early on. So the old school way people used to teach Momir was that you would want to skip turn 1 and turn 2 if you're on the play, and you want to skip just turn 1 if you're on the draw. That way you can get to the higher, more impactful mana costs, because every turn you play a creature, you have to discard a card as well. So if you start that off turn 1 on the play, you're only going to make it to 6 mana spells. If you do that on the draw, you're only going to make it to 7 mana spells, and generally 8 mana is about where you want to get for the toppest of the top end for Magic Online Momir. Now, Magic Arena Momir is different because we don't have access to all the really old creatures, so there's less bad 1 and 2 mana creatures because there's less old 1 and 2 mana creatures on Magic Arena. So the general card quality of cheap creatures is actually up quite a bit from traditional Momir. So I think it is actually reasonable to just start things on turn 1 if you really want to. Anyways, things look pretty incredible here. We got some kind of mythic that has a gigantic animation, so that's gotta be good, right? Not actually that great in Momir, but just being a flyer is always going to be good. That death trigger ability doesn't do anything because tokens cannot come back to the battlefield after they die. They just vanish from existence once they leave the board. So 5/5 Trample Haste is an issue. At least Anax is going to give us some satyrs here. I do think I need to double block though, rather than consistently taking damage from that. And I'm not going to throw my flyer under the bus because evasive threats like that can really close out a game for you. I guess I only get 1 satyr. I was incorrect. I misread an X in some way. Alright, let's see what our 5-drop is now. Ooh, another flyer? Well, we are doing excellently. Oops. Should not have clicked all attack. Not that it really matters, since the satyr can't block anyway, it wasn't particularly likely to get anything done. But if we manage to hit a creature that wants us to sacrifice a creature for some amount of value, like something with an exploit ability, then obviously we didn't need to throw away our satyrs. Alright, 6/6 from our opponent. No really important text there or anything. Let's see what we get out of our 6 mana card. 5/5 Death Touch, perfectly reasonable blocker. Our opponent is dead in 2 more swings. We didn't hit a blue source, so we don't get to produce any fairies here. If we had hit a blue source, then maybe taking turn 6 off just to get another flyer could have been reasonable. Yeah, and our opponent is going to concede there. Pretty classic game of Momir there. That is the way a lot of these games are going to end. One player gets big evasive threats, the other player doesn't get anything that can block them. That's kind of all it takes, so pretty simple stuff there overall, but that is our first victory for our first random rare reward out of this Midweek Magic. Let's see what kind of goodies we might get. I've got my fingers crossed for some gems, but we'll see. Ooh, it's an actual rare. It is a Molten Collapse from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Not a bad rare at all. Very interesting one that seems like it'd be a pretty decent card for constructed, but I don't do a whole lot of constructed, so I don't know if it's actually seeing a lot of play in any formats. It looks like it absolutely could, though. Very efficient and flexible removal. Here we are for game 2 on the play, and let's shake things up here. Let's get aggro and see if we get any really nice 1-drops. Start off our curve. Ooh, that's not a bad one at all. I don't know exactly what it does, but I see that it's an alchemy card, and I'm like, okay, that's going to be good then. So it enters the battlefield with an energy, and when it attacks, we get an energy, and if we spend both the energy, it gets +1/+0, and gives a creature in our hand +1/+0. Okay, so it's only going to buff itself in Momir, but that's still good. It's attacking as a 2/1 this turn. Because we attack, and that's an instant speed effect, so we just use it. And boom. This would be a really fun card to throw in if they wanted to do Alchemy Kaladesh drafts. It's kind of cool. Bunch of 1 toughness cards from our opponent. They've got high power, but they will just trade off into whatever we have on board if we want to do that. Ooh, great little Arbalest Engineers here. Get a 2/2 on the board, clear out one of their cards. Now we probably trade 2/1s. Certainly do. They're down to 17. We've still got a couple cards on board. There's a 2/3 first strike. That is absolutely going to hold our field back. Till we find something decent. Yeah, 3/3 works. When it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature we control. That really works. That lets us attack with both of these then. Really nice hit turn 4. The Thundering Raiju from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. It's also shooting our opponent for the number of creatures we control with counters on them. Opponent goes for the chump block here, tries to preserve their life total, but it's not going super hot for them. Down to 13. Against 3 creatures, we can attack with a 2/4 and 2 3/3s. Ooh, Basilica Bellhaunt is another sweet card, though. It's a 3/4. We have to discard a card, and they gain 3 life, so now we have to attack with the Raiju and just buff itself here. Search your library graveyard for a Domri. Okay, so that's just a 5/2. If they don't find a beefier blocker next turn, we can buff our other 3/3 up into a 4/4 and attack with both of our 4/4s and a 5/2 trample. That is a beefier creature, though. That's a 5/5 flyer. It's got Ward 4, so we are never going to target it, because the only way we would is if we have a creature with like an enter the battlefield effect to destroy something. So I wouldn't have the mana up for the Ward ever, because that would be after tapping out to the Emblem. And that draws cards when it hits us. Alright, that is a really good one. But we've still got decent attacks, and they're down to 11. Oh wow, what a hit! The Doomwake Giant to mitigate their board. -1/-1 to all their creatures there. So we actually do get to attack with all 3 of these. Actually, just kind of an insane hit. Now they're down to 4 life with no creatures left. We've got 2 creatures that would just kill them. They don't even want to go for the random card. That is another victory for us. That's our 2nd random rare reward. Super sweet Doomwake Giant from Theros as well. The original Theros block from Born of the Gods, I think. Or Journey into Nyx, one of the old Theros sets. Alright, what is the 2nd rare reward? This one is going to be some gems from Wilds of Eldraine. Add that to the pile of gems, the horde of gems that I dole out ever so slowly so I can keep drafting. We are now heading into the potential final boss, just in it for that mystery cosmetic. Alright, let's just get things started again. Get some nice quick games of Momir. Oh, this has just got to be correct with how many good 1 and 2 mana creatures are on Arena as compared to Magic Online. Because again, Magic Online has like 25 years of sets that are older than anything on Arena, which means 25 years of worse 1 and 2 mana creatures. But Arena doesn't have the bad 1 and 2 mana creatures. It has all the modern ones that are actually pretty pushed for their mana costs. So, yeah, I guess I've just kind of been fundamentally playing Momir the wrong way on Arena. When this attacks, conjure a duplicate of another target non-token attack creature. So it's a 3/3. Because it cares about non-tokens. Okay. Older Raven Guard doesn't do anything. The Chaplain of Alms doesn't do anything either, because it's not going to be in their graveyard to reanimate with Disturb. Fae of Wishes, that's a big one. For mana, we get a Visionary Augmenter. I can have a 4/3 or a 2/1 and 2 1/1s. I'll get the 4/3. Can actually attack in on their current board. One thing that is really worth noting is every other time that they've had a Momir event on Arena, tokens have not had backsides, because that was a new rule they just added recently. With Incubator tokens from March the Machine, they added the ability for tokens to have a front and a back. Previously, they couldn't do that ever, so if you got something with a backside, it would never flip. But now, if you get something that flips while it's still on the board, then it can actually work even though it is a token. So if you get like a werewolf, that werewolf can flip to the backside in Momir. Well, that's a 3/1 with no text. We do get to send in our 4/3 here and start chipping away at our opponent's life total or at their board state. They could triple block. And then we get to kill their 1/1 and their 1/2 or their 1/4 flyer. Triple block it is. Let's clear that flyer out of the sky. Four mana from our opponent. They hit Pelucranos Unchained, which is a phenomenal one. You don't tend to get a lot of removal spells in Momir, but that's a targeted removal spell they can use whenever they want. 3 mana, have it fight another creature. So even if I get like a solid flyer this turn, they can just fight it off with the Pelucranos. Send in the 3 power creatures, because the Pelucranos does have to remove the +1/+1 counters from it when it takes damage. So if these get blocked by Pelucranos, that's solid for us. Now, I didn't read this card. Okay, it doesn't do anything. It's just a 5/5. I kind of forgot about First Strike there. That would have been a nice ability to remember. Yeah, we shouldn't have sent in the 3/1, but the 3/3 was definitely a good attacker there. And 6/6 Flying Trample from our opponent with the Doom Whisperer means we're in a pretty bad spot, but things can change on a dime in Momir. You never know what you're going to hit. Oh, that's only triggering when non-token creatures die? Okay, never mind. I was going to say, that could actually be sweet. Draw the extra lands we need to get to really high mana costs. Another flyer from our opponent. Flyer turn 5, flyer turn 6, and now we're going to be at the opposite end of that table from what we saw earlier, that first game where we got a bunch of flyers and our opponent didn't get anything that could block them. Now is our time to pay for that. Yep, that's not a flyer either. Now we are 2 swings from death. We go down to 4 life this turn. Really with no great attacks. The Death Toucher will not kill the Pelucranos, but it'll make it a 1/1 still. Just like our other 5/5 would, which is perfectly reasonable. Because it's not like our Death Toucher's doing any blocking against the 10 power flying they have. Thorn Mammoth, incredible card for Momir. Fights when it enters the battlefield, and when any other creatures enter the battlefield, they get to fight again. Yeah, every time they play a creature, they get another removal spell off the Mammoth. Those are some great hits from our opponent. So obviously the punt of forgetting that First Strike existed was pretty embarrassing. That was not good gameplay, but it looks like we have been thoroughly crushed this game regardless. Yep. 2 beefy flyers and no flying blockers on this side of the table. That is going to be a loss for us, and we're going to have to head back in for another round of the final boss. All right, I think I'm going to probably meet in the middle with how I play Momir generally on Magic Arena. Again, it doesn't matter too much, but I think I do want to make it to 7 mana at least. So if I'm on the play, then I will start on turn 1, but on the draw... So if I'm on the play, then I'll make sure to start things on turn 2, but if I'm on the draw, you can still start on turn 1 and make it to 7 mana plays. But I think that's probably a decent goal for Magic Arena Momir. I think there is a significant buff going to 7 drops over 6 drops on average. 8 drops over 7's not really. You have a chance of getting Hoverguard Sweepers, which is one of the best cards in Momir, but not a super great chance, and you can still get stuff like a 8 mana 4/6 with no text. So we are on the draw here, so we're going to start things off turn 1. We got a 2/1, now we got a 1/3 that has a good ability for Momir. Being able to... When on earth did they put this on? Oh, Jumpstart, that's right. I was going to say, when did Slivers go to Arena? Anyways, I think the Sunshot Militia has potentially a pretty good ability for Momir. If we get into board states where both of us have a bunch of creatures that just don't really want to attack into each other at all, we can make sure we're still chipping in for damage. Oh no. Chatterfang's a really good card for Momir, because they're making at least 1 token every turn, so now they're also spitting out a squirrel every turn. Get a Pest or get an 8th land. Make it to 8 mana cards. I think I'll get a Pest with a Sunshot Militia on the board. Let's make sure not to play a Forest, because this also has Forest Walk. Alright, so they're going to get a 4-drop at random and a Squirrel token thanks to Chatterfang. Yeah, let's discard our Forests every time we have the chance so I don't accidentally play one. Yeah, there you go. Vidalcan and Trancer as their 4-drop and a Squirrel. Whoa! Alright, well that makes me very happy. Getting to actually kill Chatterfang here. They might have thought we had a Forest on the board. If not, then that is a really bold attack. Because I think you would just want to keep that Chatterfang forever with that kind of ability. So that was a good turn for us. Now I guess I can play my Forest. It's not like there's a ton of Forest Walkers. I think Chatterfang's probably the only one that's on Magic Arena. Okay. There are 5 drops of 10/10. And I am scared. Got a good little stack of chump blockers, but that's a problem. Our 5-drop is a 2/2 with no abilities that work in Momir. So, you know, the two ends of the spectrum here, 10/10 versus 2/2. for the turn 5 plays. See what they get on turn 6 now. Oh, Tovalar's Huntmaster, and that will flip to nighttime. Because tokens can flip to a backside now. So that's going to completely take over the game. Well, no, it can't fight itself. It can just let their other wolves fight. So they can spend a bunch of mana to kill our 2 toughness cards with their wolves. Still means it's going to create 2 2/2s every time it attacks. So we need to have 7 power up on blocks. So we've got to hit something decently beefy here. Okay, 7/6 works. So I can trade the 7/6 into that 7/7, but now I still have to deal with a whole pack of wolves. And the 10/10. Alright, so we're going to trade into the 7/7. We're going to get a free kill on a wolf. Because they don't have the double green up to throw another wolf at my 3/4. And then let's also trade into a wolf. I guess just take 10 and go to 14 here. Yikes. Alright. It's basically a 5/5 flying lifelink. Because they draw a card at the start of their turn, make it a 4/5, draw another when it attacks, makes it a 5/5. Yeah, that's not good. What do we got? 7 mana? That's generally not the worst, but it doesn't really help us here. They're still going to have a gigantic flyer and a 10/10 we can't deal with. Okay, now I do have to chump the 10/10. I guess I could block with my entire board and then have nothing left to block the 2 2/2s, the 1/1 and the 1/4. Unless we hit something real good here. We're already at the point that we basically have to hit a creature that wipes the entire board when it enters the battlefield. But you never know, so you always get that last Momir trigger before you scoop here. Meteor Golem. They can just discard a card to give that hexproof. Yeah, Dream Trawler is like unbeatable in Momir. We are super dead. Alright. That is a second loss in a row. Hopefully the loss streak does not continue forever, and we do get to get our final mystery cosmetic, but it's not going to be just yet. We've got a 3rd round of this final battle to get there. Our opponent's on the play. Since we're on the draw again, I'm going to go ahead and play from 1-drops, because we can make it to 7 mana even if we start turn 1. 1/1 flyer. Great way to start things off. Flyers are pretty much always great in Momir. Any kind of evasive threats. And I always like to play my creatures pre-combat because haste is a pretty primary mechanic to Magic the Gathering. There's a good amount of creatures that are going to have haste. Plus there's plenty of enter the battlefield effects that you'd want to know about that could impact how you want to attack. But mostly just for haste. Torolf's Disciple's actually kind of nuts in Momir. You get to be the only player that has spells to cast if they need to. Cast a bunch of lightning bolts that are shuffled into your deck. That is a sweet hit. That one is not. That's a 2/2. That's it. At least I can double block the Torolf's Disciple so they stop shuffling lightning bolts into their deck. Unless they top decked one of the 4 lightning bolts. Be 4 out of 54 cards in their deck. The odds of them having immediately top decked a lightning bolt are really low. Okay, and they are just going to make a creature pre-combat. Just thinking if we need to be concerned about them having a lightning bolt if they attack in without tapping. What is that? Sack a non-land permanent to give it +2/+2. So it's a 3/3 trample and we've got a food token. Basically, that's it. That's fine though. That's not bad for 4 mana. It's certainly better than their 4-drop, where they just got a 3/3 and nothing else. There's the lightning bolt to kill the troll. And they play a spell. We'll play a creature. Rada Coalition Warlord, which is real good in Momir. I mean, we can kill the Rada pretty easily, but it is going to make sure they get one really big attack in with whatever attacks alongside Rada. That is large domain in this format. 4/3 haste. Alright. That's just a blocker. Since it is a werewolf, it is going to be nighttime, since no one is technically casting spells in this format. So actually a 5/4 haste, I lied. Now they have a 4/5 hexproof, and they're going to send in the team. +5/+5 off of Rada. No? No is reasonable too, because I do get to kill Rada without losing a creature, thanks to having a 4 toughness card. But I will have to chump block the other card they send in. 3/7. I mean, it's big. It is big, but there are no creature cards in anybody's graveyard, so that's all it is. Whoa! Our opponent has hit a 7/10 flyer that creates up to 20 1/1 flyers when it hits us. So we got to get real lucky in response. We need to hit like a meteor golem and destroy that instantaneously. Windreader Sphinx doesn't exactly work, but it gives me another chump blocker, so I have 2 turns before they potentially get their 20 1/1 flyers. We chump block with the 1/1 flyer first, obviously. No, it's 2 flyers in a row. They didn't attack. They had an excellent attack there. We take those. Gives me a little more time to try to find an out. 5/7 hexproof is not an out. Other 7-drop. Oh, wow. Coma gives them a 3/3 in each player's upkeep. They can sack those 3/3s to tap our creatures or give Coma indestructible. Again, they're giving us plenty of breathing room here, just not attacking with the 7/10, but it's not going to matter because now Coma just gets to tap down all of our flyers so that we have 0 blockers up. I mean, it is still possible our opponent misplays like incredibly badly, but that's the only way that we could turn this around here. This 7/8/9 has just been, well, not the 7/8/9. Their turn 7, turn 8, and turn 9 has just been disgusting, but they're all 7-drops, so it's not technically a 7/8/9 curve. What did we hit? Balefire Dragon. If we could somehow get that through, that'll wipe their entire board. We can't really get through the 7/10. Plus, they can keep tapping it with Coma. Alright, now they're going to start tapping our flyers. Tap the 3/7. Tap the 6/6. Tap the 1/1. So they are guaranteed to get 11 damage in, and they get to roll that d20 and see how many 1/1 flyers they get. Basically, unless they just roll like a 1. This will be impossible to break through for our own counterattacks. 5, yeah, even a 5, which is a pretty low roll for a d20, is just like, we cannot break through at all. Actually, let's go to 8 mana. We could hit Hover Guard Sweepers and bounce 2 of their creatures. If we're super lucky. Wait, didn't I? Tried to click 8, but I didn't. There we go. Vorinclex. We double our mana and their mana gets stunned. It's pretty cool. Stun our big flyer. I mean, this Verdant Sun's avatar has given us quite a life pocket. But it's not really saving us, it's just letting us die in a much more fantastical way later. In a much more explosive way. Instead of just having taken, 15 from these over the course of a couple turns earlier, we're going to end up just taking like 60 to a whole gigantic field of fairy dragons later on. That is kind of a cooler way to die, though. I could see if I can mill myself. That'd be fun. Let's go! I don't have to draw these cards, I just think it's funny. It would be correct to draw a few of them, so we can keep playing lands and have more options. Whoa, okay, 17. 17 1/1 flyers, that definitely makes up for the 5. Once you get to really high mana value creatures, things get awkward because it gets a little less random, but it's not like there's any really good, completely game-changing 10-drop creatures. There is a 9-drop Zakama that has a bunch of incredible activated abilities that can change the course of a game. I guess I will go for a 9-drop. What is going on with the mana? Oh, I have a Vorinclex on board. That's what's going on with the mana. So I could play Literal Emrakul if I want. No, original Emrakul is not on Arena, so 15 mana, I don't think there is anything. I mean, the only board wipe creatures in the game are at like 6 mana. As far as I remember. Or they're like, you have to cast them and it's a 7-drop. Yeah, I don't know. I guess just in case we hit Zakama, we do this for 6, 7, 8, 9. We want to hold some red mana up so we can use the damaging ability. Alright. If we hit Zakama, it actually does potentially change the game because we have Zakama plus all the Vorinclex mana. Okay, that is not a Zakama. That's the Tarask. It doesn't have haste because it wasn't cast. It does get to fight whatever we want when it hits our opponent, though, or when it declares an attack. So that's a good ability. Can fight the Ancient Gold Dragon if we can somehow still be around. Tap the 3/7 flyer. Tap the 6/6 flyer. That is actually already lethal, so we cannot still be around. Well, you can't say we didn't try. We probably could have just conceded as soon as they hit the gold dragon alone. Definitely after they hit the coma, though. So we did what we could. But we are very dead on board now. I'm at 24 life, taking like 35-ish damage. Let's see what their last hit is first. Bookworm, gain some life, draw a card. Nice beefy creature too. And here comes the team. That is so good. They got tired of clicking on the 1/1s individually, so they clicked all attack. They're like, this is easier if I just all attack and then undo the attacks I don't want, which is fair. Woo! Tell you what, though, we are living the card draw dream over here. I'm pretty sure I have to manually click on all of these either way, so I might as well draw all the cards. This is actually comical. I mean, who really won this game? I don't see my opponent drawing 30 extra cards over the course of this game. Would you rather win the game or just have an insurmountable amount of card advantage? I guess it's not insurmountable if we're dead, though, because that would mean they surmounted. They got through it and killed us anyway. Alright, that was fun. That was some classic Momir right there. But that is not the victory yet. We are in it for another battle. Alright, we're on the play, so I'm going to start things on turn 2. I'd like to make it to 7 mana. I mean, we saw last game just how high quality 7 mana creatures can get. With the Ancient Gold Dragon, the Coma, World Serpent. There's some really insane stuff at 7 that I think is just like enough more insane than what 6 mana is capable of that we'd like to go to 7. But when 7 mana has insane cards like Ancient Gold Dragon and Coma, I don't see a massive reason to really want to go up to 8 and 9. Early on, during Magic Arena Momir events, there were few enough sets that Zakama at 9 mana was like almost guaranteed. I think it was literally guaranteed, so you really wanted to make it to 9 mana, but now there's enough 9 drops that it's like 1 in 15 or something. I think they put a lot on here. They put extras that aren't even in sets to make it less likely to hit Zakama. Well, not doing a lot here. Just got a 2/1 and a 2/3. This is a cute card. I've never seen this one before. I think it's from the intro decks or something. I don't know, some kind of supplementary Wilds of Eldraine product, because this is definitely not draftable. So I drafted a lot of Wilds of Eldraine and never saw that. Alright, 2/2 flyer is the best card anybody's hit so far. Just evasive abilities being great in the format. Styes put a counter on creature control, so I'd like to trade the Crocodile off or Chump Block with it later once we have our own evasive threat. If I had my own 2/2 flyer, I'd send this thing in easily. Time for 4 mana from our opponent, and they have Roaming Throne on Humans. I was going to say, I wonder what on earth is taking them so long. It's because they got a token they have to choose a creature type for. So they choose the most common creature type in the game, which is human. So if they randomly hit a human, they can double up its triggered abilities. 3/4 flyer, well that's good. That is good enough to, I think, make it a 4/5 flyer, but we might as well just trump at that point. Alright, 4/2 for a 3/1 pig. Get that out of the way. This only makes spells that target it cost more, and no one's casting spells here, we're just using abilities on creatures. So this does not have any protection against anything that would remove it. Such as an Angel of Sanctions, a 3/4 flyer that permanently exiles one of our cards, because even if that Angel of Sanctions leaves the battlefield, our token ceases to exist once it gets exiled. It's not sitting there waiting to come back. So that's a real nice hit in Momir. 6 mana now. I guess I'm happy I didn't trump attack with the crocodile yet. Swathcutter Giant, potentially really good. 1 damage to their whole board when it attacks, but it's not going to clear anything out right now. Six mana, they've got Evra, Halcyon Witness. So the way that this works is because they know that we don't have any combat tricks, because this is Momir, we're not doing anything if it's not at sorcery speed, they get to attack in with this, and then before damage is dealt, they just swap their life total with it so that they gain 20 life when it hits, and they go up to 24. So it actually doesn't really matter, right? Because either way, they'll be at 24. If they don't swap the life total, then they're at 20 and they gain 4. And if they do, then they're at 4 and they gain 20. So as long as we kill it when it attacks, it doesn't really matter whether or not they flip its power toughness. So yeah, I guess that doesn't matter too much. It's cool, though. It's a cool card. But we've definitely got enough creatures just by virtue of this being a format where all you play is creatures. So yeah, we've got enough creatures to just trade into it. We could double block and kill the Swathcutter. It'd be fine. We kill the lifelinker. It's the same we'd do on blocks if they just hold their mana up. They send that in, swap its power toughness. Yeah, maybe it wasn't worth an attack there. I don't think it matters too much either way. I got a 6/4 that mills half of our deck when it attacks us. Another thing, I don't think it matters too much because we'll be able to trade with it the first time it attacks. So sure, I'll have a 24 card library or a 23 card library, but game's not going to take another 23 turns, I imagine. Ooh, 7/7 that's hard to block? I guess most of their creatures can block it, so doesn't matter much. We're looking for like a haymaker to land somewhere. Like a coma. Otherwise, we're just staring each other down for now. Eight mana from our opponent. They get an 8/8 trample hexproof. That's a big one. But I can trade a single 7/7 into it, so we're fine. Five 5 flyer, destroy all walls our opponents control. Nice. When it attacks, if defending player controls no walls, it deals 2 to each creature without flying that player controls, so that doesn't matter. If it did 2 damage to the flyers as well, that would matter a lot. Whoa, okay, End Raise Forerunners is certainly a finisher. Whole board gets +2/+2 Vigilance Trample. I think we're dead? I imagine so. Yeah, I don't have enough toughness over here to not just die to all this trample. So I could have stopped 1 more point of damage than I'm stopping right now, which would mean I would take, let's see, I'm taking 9 plus, I'm taking 20 damage. I could have taken 19 instead of 20, but that's still very dead. All right. Here we are on the play. I'm gonna wait till turn 3. I'm just gonna keep bouncing back and forth with whether or not I want to make it to 7 or 8 mana cards. Let's make it to 8 mana. Our opponent dropped a real big End Raise Forerunners on us last game, and that was a sweet 8 drop. See if we can't get something like that. But that means this game I'm just gonna get a bunch of poopy 8 drops and then wish I went for 7 mana instead. That is the life and times of a random format like Momir. All right, let's get things rolling now. Turn 3. We start off with a Fertilid, which is a really nice one. Ramp up. Get to some super high mana costs super quickly. Play 6 mana cards the turn after this. Our opponent gets a District Guide, so they will make it up to like 9 drops over time. But luckily theirs doesn't put the land just right on board. And I guess by just skipping this turn and using Fertilid, I'll also be making it to 9 mana spells because I will not have discarded a card this turn, plus I'll have another land on the board. At 4 mana, they get, Phyrexian Obliterator, which is really hard to deal with in Momir, considering the only way to really deal with cards is by blocking and attacking into them. So it's only by combat damage, which Phyrexian Obliterator happens to be incredibly good at dealing with. Let's go for a 4-drop and use Fertilid again this turn, I think. I don't think there's a reason to do that. There's also not really a reason not to do that. I'm just not going to do it. So I can... Well, I guess Phyrexian Obliterator had his Trample as well. I was going to say I could block and then use my last counter on the Fertilid to stop the damage, but since that has Trample, that's not going to stop any damage anyway. I guess the only thing the Kinetic Augur can do is block, since we'll never have Instants and Sorceries in grave. But it could block the District Guide over and over without ever dying. Soaking up like 6 damage over the next 3 turns instead of 5 damage once. Alright, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're at 8 mana already. Let's just do it. We gotta get something incredible to deal with Phyrexian Obliterator. 6/6 flyer is generally something incredible, but it's not a great way to try to kill that Obliterator because I'll have to sacrifice 6 permanents, which would be sacrificing my 0/4, my 6/6, and 4 of my lands. No shot! Their 6-drop makes me sack my board and they keep the Obliterator. Okay, so even if I was willing to sack 6 permanents, that's not going to happen now. Come on, Zakama. You can have your upkeep draw 2 cards? Well, that's not anything. These are some of those 9 drops they put in. There's the whole cycler bringers. Wow. And they hit the haste card to just kill me here. All right. Another game, another loss. We are on to like round number 6 of the final boss or something. This is payback for all those Momir events where I was on like a 10 to 20 win streak. It happened a couple times. All right. I'm going aggro again. We're just going to play cards every turn, and we will make it up to 7 mana in doing so, since we are on the draw. Could be a fun ability to toy around with. I don't think it would ever be worth it over just playing another 3 mana creature in Momir, but it's a cool one. Ooh, that's not a bad hit. Any creature I hit, I can give it haste. Yorn's actually incredible, because they've given us snowlands as all of our lands in Momir, so untaps all their mana, so I guess not incredible, since you can only use the Momir emblem once per turn anyway. But if they get their own like 3 mana activated ability like Ranger's Hawk, that's going to make sure they've got the mana to use whatever abilities they want. They can dump all their mana into the Momir emblem, and also sorry, I'm just reading the Oran Reef Ooze. They can put all of their mana into the Factory of Momir Vig, and then they can also untap it and still use it on all of their abilities. Might have been best to just put the counter on this, give it haste, and attack with it as a 4/4. Probably just take the double block trade there if I do that. I do like the idea of buffing my flyers. So the untap doesn't matter much here, but it could matter in the future, so I'll go for the double block. They only kill one of these two. And I'm pretty happy with whichever they kill, because both of these creatures are going to be decent to have on board next turn. Right, they'll kill the haster, so I can use the ooze to buff the hawk again. Yep, and it'll trade into either of their blockers. Cool. Oh, hello, Hell Rider. Hello there, haste creature, and now it's fine that I lost my thing that gives stuff haste. So they probably trade the 2/2 into the 2/2 and the 3/1 into the 3/3, since the 2/2 doesn't have any relevant abilities. There's not going to be any creatures in graves. The Cathar Commando, potentially, like, you can get artifact and enchantment creatures, but still, trading off into a Hell Rider is probably better than anything that's going to do later. That is a 2/4 Vigilance, and that is the only ability that matters on it. The rest of it doesn't really work in Momir, where everything's a token. What a hit. Real good luck here. We've got a 4/4 flyer that can also buff all of our flying attackers. They are tremendously dead on board next turn. We can attack with a 6/6 flyer and a 5/5 flyer if I double activate this. Alright, their final hit is a 6 mana 5/5 that doesn't have any relevant abilities for Momir. They are tremendously dead in the skies. We just send in the team. All attacking flyers get +1/+1, and that is 9 damage already. Could even buff it up to 11 if we want. But that is very lethal, and we've made it out of the gigantic loss streak at the end of this event. And we've now got our mystery cosmetic to wrap up the Midweek Magic prizes this week. And for our mystery cosmetic, I'm always hoping for anything but a parallax card style. The parallax card styles are the 3D kind of looking card styles with the mirrored borders. Not a huge fan of those styles, I just don't like the mirroring of the artwork on the edges. Plus the fact that they're the most common cosmetic by a lot makes them the most boring reward to get. So just by default, it's a lot cooler if you get something else randomly because they are rarer to get. So fingers crossed here, but let's see what the final reward is out of the event. Ooh, it's a schematic card style for Unwinding Clock. That's pretty cool. Unwinding Clock is a sweet card to build around in Historic Brawl, Commander style formats. I guess they recently made the change to just calling it Brawl because everyone only played Historic Brawl anyway. Now it's just Brawl. Brawl is 100 card 1 versus 1 commander. And Standard Brawl is the 60 card version that you could only play standard cards. So it's kind of funny how that changed around where it used to be Historic Brawl and then Brawl was the 60 card version. But anyways, this is a really fun card for those kind of formats where you can really build some silly combo-centric decks that are all about like a bunch of artifacts doing crazy stuff. I've played this in a lot of my own artifact-focused commander decks, and it's always a ton of fun, and yeah, we'll definitely brew around it a bit in formats like that. But that is going to end today's event, and that's going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for supporting this channel, as well as you for watching these videos. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below, and if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.